Everyone, this is Rebecca, the Frugal Resinista, and I am going to show you guys how to do a pour geode into a frame that is already made. So just real briefly here, as a money-saving tip, I bought a $1 chalkboard from the dollar store, and it's just got plain wood, and I've taped this side, and the first step that I'm going to do is to spray the frame with this Rust-Oleum multicolored texture so that it almost looks like a stone that's holding in the geode. So I'm going to do that, and then we will come back and we will start making the geode itself. Alright, my frame is sprayed, and I use the Rust-Oleum multicolored textured spray. I don't know if you can see, this is kind of the lid is what it looks like, but I use that, and then I have found this new product that's another version of this Rust-Oleum stone textured. This is a lot thicker, almost like you're spraying a layer of sand onto your project. However, it doesn't cover all the way. It's just the flecks. So in my last few pieces, I've really liked to start with this one to cover everything and then to add that texture. And now I'm just going to get gloves on and take off my painter's tape so that we can move on to the next part of this project. Now that my frame is completely dry, I have done the opposite and taped the frame itself and just very lightly sprayed a coat of spray paint on the inside just to add some light color so that my colors aren't too dark once I pour them in. I used Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch Ultra Cover with Paint and Primer because this can be used on things like plastic and stuff, and I'm using a chalkboard. I just want to make sure it adhered. I didn't even worry about covering it too much, so you can kind of see different colors, and that'll give it some depth if you can see through. But now I'm going to, real quick with my glue gun, flip this over, and let me pull these off real quick. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm actually going to glue just a real thin line right around all these edges, so in case this is loose, because this was a cheap $1 purchase, none of my resin's going to fall out. So we'll do that real quick, and then we can start painting. I've made a really thin line since this is the back, and I might have it showing at some point. I wanted to make sure that it didn't look, like huge globs of glue or anything. So, got a thin line of that glue. I'm going to flip it over, and I can start pouring. I'm going to give myself an idea of where I want things and glue just a few stones and stuff down because I don't have a lot of space. This isn't even 1/4 of an inch. Deep, this frame. I want to not have to move stuff too much because I don't want it to spill over onto the frame. So I'm going to try to get some stuff in place so I don't have to tip too much. So another money-saving tip that I'm using for this one is that even though this is small anyway, I don't want to use too much resin because it's such a small piece, and I have some big pieces to work on, and resin is expensive. So I'm using a lot of natural stone on this one. I think it's going to look really nice. I got these pebbles. They almost look like pebbles for fish or something, but they were $1 at a Dollar Tree store. So I'm going to use those, and then I'm also using some of this really sparkly glass that is vase filler from Michael's that I got with a 40% off coupon. I am going to start mixing my resin and doing a pour here in a few minutes, and I will talk you guys through that part. I've gone ahead and retaped my edges so that as I pour, I don't have to try to stop right on the edges. I can kind of pour over a little bit and make the lines a little smoother. I'm going to show you real quick what I am using. I am using Craft Smart from Michael's for just $1.99, deep bronze. I am using a Spa Blue Americana from Walmart mixed with patina colored Ranger alcohol ink. A note on that, you can add to tiny pieces, you can add a lot of depth by mixing some paint and alcohol ink, because they'll separate a little bit and the alcohol ink kind of comes up while the paint sinks, and it gives you more of a 3D look even if you don't have enough space to actually pour many layers. I'm using Pearl X powder pigment for my next color, and that is in blue green. And it looks blue from here, but it's a beautiful blue green when it comes out. I got that at Hobby Lobby for $5. And I am using a mix of Apple Barrel White. I think this big one was only like $2.99. And then Pearl Colored Ranger alcohol ink, just to give it a really nice shimmer. So I'm going to mix up my resin, and then we will start pouring. So if you guys have watched my other videos, you know that I like to use Stone Coat Countertops Quick Coat. I just mixed it, and it gives you at most a 15-minute working time, so we're going to move fast from here. I'm going to pour it into my different paints, and we'll get going. And here we go. Do that I like to do is, now that some of these colors have mixed together a lot, I like to pour clear over the top of them because it shows the underneath color. So I'm going over this white because I know there's a lot of the copper underneath it, and it'll spread those out so that you can see the underneath colors. And again, that's another way to add a lot of depth if you're not doing a lot of pour. So I'll probably do that again if there's any extra, but I want to make sure I have enough clear first before I do that anywhere else. So this is such a pretty, like, very sparkly looking sand kind of glass that I'm just going to stick right in there and let it sink in. It's going to spread out a little, but it's really neat because it's going to make all the other colors spread out in really different, cool, funky ways. So we'll let that sit. I'm going to do a little more clear back here, just again to make those lines look more 3D, and I'll probably go through here and do the same thing. And then I will try really hard to get you guys a close-up of it once it's all dry, so you can see what I mean by pouring clear on top to make your lines more 3D. So I'm going to go in here and do that. Just adding some different clear lines in places. And do one more. And it just makes everything spread around so cool. All right, real quickly, I'm going to hit this with my torch. It's about 6 hours later, and I have let this dry. My resin's dry. Again, I use the Quick Coat, so it dries pretty quickly. And I'm going to do a couple things to this and get it finished off. I am going to first use some clear nail polish to just kind of put in a few of these spots where the resin didn't get all the way into the stones. I'm just going to paint around, and that'll hold them in place very nicely. So we'll do that first. All right, I added clear to each one of these stones, and then I just poured clear in. That's going to kind of hold everything together in the few spots where there wasn't resin. And then in this one, I added a little bit of this Broadway Nails gold nail polish just to highlight a little bit, and then I again filled it in with the clear. So now I'm going to use my acrylic paint markers and draw a few lines, and remember to sign my work, and then we will be finished with this piece. All right, my piece is basically complete. I am going to get my camera down and give you guys a close-up and show you what all the details look like and how 3D I've been able to make it with just adding that clear. So the clear lays on top of some of the colors to give it depth, and then I drew lines over that some also so that it looked like a lot of layers. So here's a close-up. You can see some of the different colors, how they've mixed together. I'm really happy with how it turned out. There's some good depth in there, even though that I didn't have a lot of space to work with for how deep I was pouring. Thank you for watching this, and I very much appreciate it. I passed 100 subscribers, so thank you so much to all of you who have been subscribing and following my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, like the video, and you can also find me on Facebook and on Instagram as the Frugal Resinista. Thank you very much.